I'm Larry Ross, Director of Space Programs at NASA's Lewis Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm your host for this 11th program in our 13-part series, Journey Through the Solar System. Now let's go back to 1979, when a Pioneer spacecraft, launched from Earth by the Lewis-managed Atlas Centaur rocket, made its closest approach to Saturn, the sixth planet.
We received several pictures yesterday afternoon and evening, and we'd like to run through some of those now. This is the one that came in here at about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. This is by far the most spectacular picture we have so far. This is raw data. It has not been processed in any way. We can see the big banded planet, and of course the ring system is very prominent in this picture. Also prominent is Saturn's largest moon, Titan, in the upper right-hand corner. Titan is a very large moon, 3,600 miles in diameter, almost planet-sized. So the Pioneer Saturn mission continues to go very, very well. We're about 50 hours now from closest approach on Saturday morning. This is Pioneer Saturn mission operations.
On Voyager, we heard a lot of, or some speculation about organic molecules and the possibility that within the clouds there was a belt or a zone, something where the temperature is comfortable for life, unlike this room.
Right up here.
Are similar speculations possible or reasonable for Saturn?
There almost certainly is a zone as you go down where the temperatures are comfortable for life. And even the mixture of elements is probably adequate for life. There's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, etc. Of course, there's no solid surface for the life to cling to, and there are convection currents carrying these molecules, if there are any molecules down there, and there certainly are. If there are any organic molecules, we don't know, but let's assume there's a accidental organic molecule. It will soon be carried
about 10.7 hours.
Zone, probably deeper, where it's much hotter and where the molecule is dissociated. So I don't hold much chance for floating organisms in either of these. The bulk density of the planet, the fact that it's only 7/10 the density of water,
how long is
we
a year
know
on
that
Saturn?
It's largely made of hydrogen, but there's a little bit of heavy stuff, and it's close enough to be
GNC Greer.
29.4 Earth
the
years.
extra stuff you need is rather close to what you'd
We
get
are open until 8 o'clock.
solar material. Yes.
What kind
You're
of
welcome.
information will you be looking for to indicate some kind of life form on the moon, Titan?
On Titan? Really none, but let me now
Does Saturn have the
modify
lowest
that
density of
simple
any
answer.
planet?
Similar speculations possible.
The question of life on Titan hinges on a number of factors, but
Yes.
mainly the temperature of the surface of Titan. If it's warm, such as above the freezing point of water, then we could say that there's a possibility of life on Titan. Now, unfortunately, now we are a temperature measuring device, so we are relevant to how warm the surface is.
Would Saturn float in water?
Unfortunately, we can't see through the clouds. So if there are a lot of clouds in the atmosphere, we're just going to see the cold cloud tops. I have some
Yes,
hope
its
that
density
we
is
will be
less
able
than
to say
water.
whether Titan has a thick atmosphere or a thin atmosphere. If it has a thick one, then there's hopes that below the clouds there's a gradually rising temperature and ultimately a warm temperature at the ground.
Now, Titan is particularly interesting because
What is Saturn's
it's one of the
atmosphere
planets that
mostly
has
made
a
of?
reasonable atmosphere associated with it, and it contains at least methane, which we believe may have been one of the ingredients on
Hydrogen
some
and
of the
helium.
in the early primitive Earth. And there are also other indications in the atmosphere of Titan that there is organic chemistry going on.
Actually, there have been some radio observations rather recently that show that the temperature at the surface is cold.
Does
not
Saturn
all
have
that
a solid
different from the
surface?
temperature at the cloud tops. And this is sort of a suggestion that really the atmosphere isn't all that thick.
No.
The cloud tops are not all that far above the surface, and therefore the atmosphere is thin, sort of a Mars-like atmosphere.
So does that throw both a greenhouse and a inversion atmosphere model out the window?
Well,
It's thin.
these observations, these radio observations, will throw out the greenhouse model.
What is believed
Tend
to be
throw
at Saturn's
it out,
center?
and they tend to throw out the possibility of life if there ever was one, because Titan is therefore much too cold.
I understand
A
one
dense
of the
core
things
of
that
rock
you've
and
been
ice.
looking for is the magnetosphere.
Well, first of all, I'm talking about the magnetic field of Saturn. The Earth has a magnetic field, and because the Earth has a magnetic field, and when you take your compass, it points north and you know where to go. Jupiter has a magnetic field also, and we expect
How did Saturn
to have
get
a
its
magnetic
name?
field. And you need a magnetic field, a global magnetic field, in order to have radiation belts. Of course, the Earth has radiation belts. Jupiter has very strong
From the
radiation
Roman
belts.
god of agriculture.
We felt that the interior of Saturn is such that Saturn would more than likely have a magnetic field. And yet the solar storm that we're encountering as we are approaching Saturn is such that that magnetic field was masked. And so we kept getting closer and closer and closer to Saturn and no magnetic field.
What is Saturn's
And,
average temperature?
Early this morning, we crossed the standing bow shock wave, which results as a consequence of
About
that magnetic
minus
field and the impact
178
of the
degrees Celsius.
solar wind, which immediately told us, yes, indeed, Saturn does have a magnetic field, and we were even able to compute what the strength of that field was.
On details on the ball of Saturn, on the planet Saturn itself, there is not much in the way of
What are
spots,
Saturn's
which
rings
is
mostly made of?
disappointing because we had hoped to get precise rotation rates and thereby a better information
Water,
on
ice and dust.
jets and streams in the atmosphere of Saturn. The structure, however, of belts and zones is beginning to be seen and looks somewhat different from that of Jupiter, whereas from the Earth already we knew that there
Who first
are
observed
in
Saturn's rings in
10
1610?
hemispheres, say the northern hemisphere, which is the one that we're observing best right now, on the order of 5 belts and 5 zones.
Galileo
that was
Galilei.
known from ground-based observations. It now looks that there are many more of these bright zones and dark belts, perhaps twice as many.
This is Pioneer Saturn mission operations. The spacecraft is now
What did
moved
Galileo
within
mistake the rings
700,000
for?
miles of the planet Saturn, and it's moving closer at just about 26,000 miles per hour.
Three
As we
separate
learned
bodies
in the
always.
press briefing, we now believe we know what our problem with the data has been. There was a major solar event some weeks ago. Particles from the sun have made their way out into interplanetary space and have now enveloped our spacecraft.
Who
and the
correctly
planet
identified
Saturn.
Saturn's rings in
The most
1655?
apparent result of this will be smaller pictures on our screens, and we will not be able to show
Cassini-Huygens.
as much area of the planet in each image as had been expected.
Since I'm a radio man, I'm kind of fascinated with the radio system of the Pioneer and the DSN, and I'm very impressed by the fact that all of these data are received from a distance of just about exactly 1 billion
How thick are Saturn's
miles.
main rings on average?
At this distance, if you are transmitting 1,024 bits per second, at any given time there
Only
are
about
5.5
10
million
meters.
of those bits strung between here and Saturn, traveling at the speed of light, 5.5 million. And they're spaced 182 miles apart. So with that, I'll quit.
At 7:36
What is the
a.m. this
largest
morning,
gap in Saturn's rings?
the spacecraft will pass through the ring plane at Saturn, and this is probably the most dangerous part of its journey.
The Cassini
Even
division.
though the spacecraft is going by Saturn outside of the 3 visible rings, they're the 3 rings that we can see from Earth, scientists are quite sure that there is a great deal of material which lies outside of the outermost visible ring, the so-called A ring. Well, Pioneer Saturn is going to be going through that, and it will take
Who discovered the
less than a second
Cassini
for it
division
to,
in
penetrate
1675?
the ring and move through it. But if it should encounter a piece of debris, it could be the end of the mission right there.
Giovanni
This
Domenico
first view
Cassini.
is a close-up view of the equatorial region of Saturn. I think it's very interesting and has caused quite a bit of comment here in the Mission Operations Center. First of all, the block in the upper right has no meaning. That's an artifact introduced into the image as we display it here by
What are the 3 brightest main rings called?
that process the spacecraft data that comes from the spacecraft. So the part we're interested in is the portion below
Rings
the middle
A,
of the
B,
screen, the
and
lower
C.
half of the screen. And what we're seeing there is a portion of the cloud tops at Saturn near the equator, and the stripes that we see to the left that move diagonally from the left up toward the upper center are a backlighted view of Saturn's rings.
Which of Saturn's rings
But
is the
most
brightest
interesting
and
thing,
most massive?
Perhaps is the shadow these rings cast on the surface or the cloud tops at Saturn.
Ring B.
Time is 9:03 and 40 seconds. Right now, 20 more seconds, and we will be able to confirm the spacecraft has survived. 15 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Which ring is the innermost faint ring?
We have a mission. The Pioneer spacecraft has survived the crossing of the ring plane.
Our micrometeoroid detector on the spacecraft received 2 hits. Now that is the maximum number of hits it can achieve in an 80-minute period. So it could have been quite a few more hits than 2. So there's no question we did go through a region that has some debris in it.
And receivers reported out of lock. Receivers are out of lock. The spacecraft is behind the planet.
A gap near the outer
We
edge
no
of the
longer
A
have
ring.
communications with the spacecraft.
The cost of a planetary mission I like to measure in units of a beer. We all know what a beer costs. We all know what a beer means to us. The trip we're going to Saturn now is a real cheapie. We got 2 flybys of Jupiter by Pioneer and now one of Saturn for 2
What
cans
keeps
of
the
beer
gaps in Saturn's
per person.
rings clear?
Now that's cheaper than by a long shot than the cost of going to a movie today. And I can't help thinking that's worth it. Do you agree?
Shepherd moons.
This is Pioneer Saturn's mission operations. A minute and a half now from the receipt of telemetry for the second ring crossing.
What is the F ring?
4 seconds. We're through the time.
A narrow, complex ring outside the main rings.
Continues to look good. 4 minutes now after the nominal time. Pioneer Saturn seems to be safely through the ring plane and still in business.
Which ring is made of icy particles ejected by Enceladus?
Mission operations. The spacecraft is now 760,000 miles away from Saturn and moving away at about 25,400 miles per hour. Yesterday afternoon, some of the findings from yesterday's
Hi, my name is
encounter
Adam,
at,
Director of
Saturn were announced. These include the possibility of the discovery
What causes
of
the
a
dark,
moon
rotating
of Saturn,
spokes in ring B?
also the discovery of a new ring in the so-called Pioneer Division, or perhaps the Pioneer
Electrostatic charges levitating fine dust.
between this new ring and the outside of the A ring, which is the outermost ring, which is visible through Earth telescopes. We also announced major structural features have been discovered in the Saturn's atmosphere, and also made
How wide
the
are
first
Saturn's main
ever
rings
temperature
across?
measurements of Saturn's rings.
There are a few anomalies, but we've learned to live with it. And so these pictures that I will
About
be showing you will not at all be
282,000
perfect. There will be
kilometers.
some missed scan lines in there and so forth. But we have the bookkeeping. We know exactly where each element is, and in our computers eventually, that is sometime this fall, we can release pictures that will be appreciably better than what you're seeing here.
Saturn has been called the most beautiful planet in the solar system, and
Why do Saturn's
perhaps
rings
this
seem to
picture is a
disappear
good
every
example
15
of
years?
why.
Hi, my name is Adam, Director of...
This is a close-up of
They align perfectly
two
edge
views
onto Earth.
actually of the rings, an image and then a mirror image as the imaging instrument stepped back across the rings. And this is the picture that gave us our first glimpse of the new ring system, the new outer ring.
What narrow gap is located near the outer edge of the A ring?
Between that ring.
Hi, my name is Adam, Director of Recruitment at Aldi. Congratulations on making it to this stage in the recruiting process. In just a moment...
The planet appears oblate. It is oblate. The diameter quite a bit larger at the equator than it is down through the poles. Another close-up view of the cloud tops at Saturn. This is the image that was made at very near
which tiny moon orbits inside the Keeler gap.
To Saturn. There's a great deal of data and information contained in this image that may not be readily apparent on your screen.
Daphnis.
But there's data here that will be studied by scientists for years to come. Coming out the other side of the planet now, we have another view of Saturn in crosslight, with the sun lighting the planet from the side. The Pioneer Saturn spacecraft is
which tiny moon orbits inside the ink gap.
Solar system, but will be tracked for a number of years yet to come, returning valuable data on the interplanetary medium, the solar wind. This is Pioneer Saturn mission operations.
With that sort of preview, maybe we can call up the Titan image, or one of the Titan images from last night. It doesn't have a lot
What was the first spacecraft to fly by Saturn?
On it, I think you'll agree. But if you've heard the model builders talking, they haven't predicted a lot of obvious features. The
Pioneer 11.
Thing to notice is that this is really raw data. It's been processed, but only in the sense that it's been squashed back together again to make it look round. It gets very elongated when it goes for a long time in one direction and a shorter time in another direction.
And the good news that the Titan is there. The bad news is that we barely
In what
saw
year
it.
did Pioneer 11 fly by Saturn?
We were counting on, first of all, twice as much data because at the high telemetry rate. Secondly, we were counting on no data dropouts. So we have a good deal less data, and we're counting on lots of data in order to average it and beat down the noise. And I'd say we've said the temperature of Titan is 75 degrees Kelvin, plus or minus 5, which is about the temperature you'd expect for an object.
What narrow ring did Pioneer 11 discover in 1979?
And as you can see, there's no prayer of measuring a day-night temperature difference
The ring.
these days. We are not looking at the surface. We are looking at the cloud tops or some point high in the atmosphere, and we cannot say what the temperature of the surface is.
do I gather that based on the data that you did get back with Titan, there is not insufficient temperature data with respect to the surface
What small moon's existence did Pioneer 11 help
there is an
confirm?
atmosphere that could be hospitable to some life form?
I think there's plenty of other data, Earth-based data, that tend to rule out the possibility of high surface temperatures and the door open a crack. Now, I will certainly agree with you, my data do not have much to say about the surface temperature.
How did Pioneer 11 find Saturn's magnetic field compared to
rings
Earth's?
first. I guess I've summarized the significance of the Titan data for you already. I think we can say that our
About 1,000
eclipse
times
data,
stronger.
just as we go behind the planet, just at the end on the right there, are consistent with other analyses that imply that the rings are centimeter size.
And the preliminary indications are that the masses are not high.
What was the closest distance Pioneer 11 reached to Saturn?
The hypothesis of the rings being made of ices rather than something heavy containing a lot of
About
iron.
21,000 kilometers.
On the planet itself, I think we've at least confirmed that these yellow bands are correlated with cloud heights. The various colored bands on Saturn are correlated with cloud heights, or by which I mean different colored bands are at different
Why was
heights.
Pioneer
And then
11's
we come
close
to
approach
this
risky?
exquisite fine feature, the F-ring, a very narrow F-ring, which lies near or on the inside
It
of
had
the
to cross the ring
E-ring,
plane
which we have
safely.
not been able to observe, but I have little doubt that the E-ring exists. And then this morning we heard then of the discovery of the G-ring between approximately 10 and 15 radii.
Now I know the ladies and gentlemen of the press are probably a little bit perplexed by some of the complicated figures
What did Pioneer
that we show
11
you.
discover
So I
about
thought I'd
Titan's
start with a
temperature?
simple one. This is it. Now this
It was
is my
extremely
summary
cold, around
of the
minus
hard information we
180
had,
Celsius.
hard scientific information we had about Saturn's magnetic field prior to the Pioneer 11 mission. So we know that we can now turn this blank page, begin to concentrate on the fact that Saturn does indeed have a magnetic field, and we know what its properties are. And to paraphrase
What kind of
William
images
Gilbert,
did
who
Pioneer
started
11
this
send
business
back of
originally
Saturn?
back in the 1600s, might say Saturn is indeed a giant magnet. What we've
Low
shown here
resolution,
is a
grainy photos.
Pioneer rock, which we presume lies in or near the ring plane. This is the Pioneer spacecraft, which at this time was about 10 minutes after having crossed the ring plane and was moving inward towards periapsis. It
How
seems
did Pioneer
clear
11
that,
assist the later Voyager missions?
referring to this as a Pioneer rock was perhaps somewhat misleading. As you've heard, the energetic particles have given
It
us
acted as a safe
some idea
trajectory
about the
pathfinder.
size of this thing, which we nearly missed. And several hundred kilometers is probably more comparable in cross-section to the greater San Francisco-Oakland area. So calling it a rock is perhaps not really the appropriate thing. As far as we know, what wasn't there,
What did Pioneer
we went
11
under
show
it
about Saturn's
about 10
atmosphere?
minutes after crossing the ring plane. And I would say, along with the others, that we were damn lucky.
What this shows,
It has faint band patterns like
just
Jupiter.
keep it at this for the moment, is how, using trajectory information, we can learn things about the interior of the planet. First, we show here just a core, an inner core to Saturn, which will produce a nearly spherical gravitational field. It will be slightly flattened, and we show, again, very
Does
schematically
Pioneer 11
trajectory
carry a
flying
message
through
for
that,
extraterrestrials?
gravitational field. Now we can add in a region of metallic hydrogen, and
Yes, the
that can
Pioneer
be shown by here. We add metallic hydrogen on top of the core. This will change the gravitational field, flatten it even more, and we'll get a slightly different trajectory as a result of that metallic hydrogen region. And then finally we show the outer envelope of Saturn.
In what year did
liquid
NASA lose
hydrogen
contact
region,
with Pioneer
and
11?
we show in a very exaggerated way the shape of the surface, or the geoid.
1995.
We have a figure of the interior. This is built up by an inner core. I guess I have no control over how fast this accumulates, so we can let it go all the way out to the surface. But anyway, that inner core you see is made up of molten rock and iron. This model that we show here is essentially correct. It consists of about 3 Earth masses, but is of about the same size as the Earth.
Escaping the solar system.
So we have a density of about 3 times what we have in the Earth, and a body of about the same size, made up of rock and iron, but higher density by about a factor of 3 because it's inside of Saturn. Then we have an outer core where
how did Pioneer 11 reach Saturn?
Water, methane, and ammonia have settled out of the upper regions of Saturn, formed a outer
by
core
using a gravity
consisting
assist
of about
from
9
Jupiter.
Earth masses. And the boundary of that outer core is about 23% of the total planetary radius. Then on top of that is the metallic hydrogen region, which is consistent with the diagram that Ed Smith showed. And the boundary of that
in what year did
takes up
Voyager
about
1 fly by
58%
Saturn?
of the radius. On top of that, a liquid hydrogen region. And then on the very top, a gaseous
1980.
atmosphere, which we estimate to be about 300 kilometers deep.
Yeah, I just want to make a few closing remarks, and that is that, first of all, in the last 2 weeks, I think our knowledge on Saturn has increased by at least 1,000-fold, conservatively. And so I think, 2 weeks ago we didn't know very much about Saturn. I think we know a lot now. We got a lot of questions, and hopefully a lot of these will be answered as we analyze the data further. But I think we've learned an awful lot in the last 2 weeks compared to what we've known in the last 370 years or so.
Truly great strides were made by the Pioneer missions, but the Voyager spacecraft, which followed the Pioneers to Saturn, gave us even clearer pictures and much more information. During our next program, we will see planetary data received by scientists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California.
What instrument did Voyager 2
Until
use to
then,
measure the rings
this
in
is
high
Larry Ross saying
resolution?
Goodbye from NASA's Lewis Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio.
A photopolarimeter. What did Voyager 2 discover about the F-ring structure? It has a braided or clamped appearance.
Hi, my name is Adam,
Voyager
Director of
1
Recruitment at
discover
Aldi.
about Titan's
Congratulations
atmosphere?
on making it to this stage in the recruiting process. In just a moment, you're going to be asked a series of recorded questions and given an opportunity to prepare
It
responses
is thick,
before submission.
nitrogen-rich, and
After
hides
the
the
recorded
surface.
interview, we'll contact you regarding next steps. Before starting your interview, we recommend finding a quiet place with no distractions. Remember, be yourself. Do
Great ring planet. Until the Voyager missions, we did not know simple facts.
What wind speeds did Voyager 2 measure near Saturn's equator?
I'm Larry Ross, Director of Space
Up to 1,800 kilometers per hour.
and I'm your host for this program, Voyager 2 Saturn Encounter, which is the 12th in our 13-part series, Journey Through the Solar System.
Voyager 1. What happened to Voyager 1's path after its closed Titan FLYBY?
And is the second largest planet in the solar system. As we saw in our previous program, the Pioneer
It was bent upward and out of the planetary plane.
views of Saturn. But the pictures did not have enough resolution to show the planet's rings and moons as clearly as the later Voyager pictures did. In late 1980, the Voyager 1 spacecraft made its close encounter with Saturn. About 10 months later, the Voyager 2
Where did Voyager 2 go after leaving Saturn?
Great ring planet. Voyager 2 produced thousands of pictures of Saturn and its rings and moons from different angles
Uranus and Neptune.
than did the first Voyager spacecraft. Now let's see the saga of Voyager 2 as the story unfolded in late August 1981.
The spacecraft has journeyed 1 billion miles from Earth in 4 years. The beauty and complexity of the ringed planet and its family of satellites was first revealed by
What did Voyager 2
1
discover about the ring structures?
1980 encounter. Now, Voyager 2 will closely explore specific targets in Saturn's realm.
They consist of thousands of individual ringlets.
We join Voyager 2 on its approach as the spacecraft cameras and other instruments scan the planet and most of its 17 known moons.
Good morning. At 8 o'clock this morning, Voyager will be 1 million.
What temperature variation did Voyager 2 find on Saturn?
Kilometers from the cloud tops of Saturn, and it's closing in on the planet at 26,500 miles per hour.
Temperatures vary with latitude across the planet.
Kilometers a second. And that makes it still just under 1 billion miles from Earth, 965 million miles away.
The young lady right there.
Questions. First for Dr. Smith. On the screen yesterday afternoon...
Which of Saturn's moons did Voyager 2 reveal as highly reflective?
A lot of white flecks on the image of Saturn. Do you have any idea what those were?
Enceladus.
Well, there are, particularly at the higher latitudes, a large number of these small white features, similar to many that we saw on Jupiter. They may be small convective elements, like a large aggregation of thunderheads or cumulus-type clouds. The resolution was...
What did Voyager 2 observe on Enceladus's surface?
Kilometers or so that gives you an idea of the scale of those features. It's similar to what we've seen in Jupiter's atmosphere as well.
Smooth, crater-free plains, indicating geological activity.
Over 900,000 miles away from the Saturn atmospheric surface, and going about 28,500 miles an hour towards Saturn. All is working well. We have been watching recently, and will continue to see for a little while longer, some photopolarimetry.
Which small moons did the Voyager missions discover?
Photographs that go along with the photopolarimetry scans as you're going north to south across the surface of the planet. And
Atlas, Prometheus, and Pandora.
The information we get from the photopolarimeter instrument, quite a bit of which has to do with the nature of the particles, the size and characteristics of the particles that make up the high haze layers and the upper portions of the clouds.
Saturn's rings are targeted for special study throughout Voyager 2's approach.
What did the Voyagers discover about the rotating spokes in the rings?
Are studied from different points of view to create three-dimensional pictures of the strands of the ring.
They rotate in sync with Saturn's magnetic field.
Dark, spoke-like features in the B ring are photographed as they move around the planet.
There we go, coming around the racetrack. Now, briefly in front of the planet, then coming around again.
What famous message did both Voyager spacecraft carry?
There's a few places where we think we see, it's going a bit too quickly, but where we think we see, right in here.
The golden record.
Instantaneously, almost instantaneously, the production of a radial spoke. There's another one right there. Wasn't there before, suddenly appears, right there, momentarily radial.
You see them, it will be startling.
Yes.
The spoke-like features of the B ring, discovered by Voyager 1, are an important focus of study.
Which NASA sent to manage the Voyager
These
missions.
members of the Voyager imaging team want to glean all they can from Voyager 2's photographs during 14 hours of the spoke's movement around Saturn.
The Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Another phenomena they want to look for are possible additional satellites that might be embedded in the rings. 2 deep gaps in the Cassini division and 1 in the outer part of the C ring might be just the spots for such satellites.
That same set of pictures, incidentally, is the one that we use to look for
What giant impact crater on Mars did Voyager 1 discover?
the gaps in these clear regions in the Cassini division and the outer edge of ring C. And the ones
Herschel.
that Len Tyler pointed out are in fact the very ones that we're looking into. The ones he sees as free space, we also judge to be almost completely free of material. And it's within those regions that we're looking for these embedded satellites, which we would calculate ought to be in the vicinity of 30 kilometers in diameter. Well, a progress report on that.
What
is
did
that
Voyager 1 show
Dorel
about the
now,
moon
completed,
Iapetus?
1/3 of both rings in the Cassini division and the outer edge of ring
One
C.
hemisphere is dark as asphalt and the other is bright as snow.
You can see anything down to 5 kilometers, certainly, and possibly a little bit smaller, and that assumes that the particle is even a little on the dark side of average for the rings, and nothing in that 1/3. Cuzzy
What high-latitude jet stream feature did Voyager 2 find on
the
Saturn?
remaining 2/3 of the Cassini division, not quite as carefully. His limit is probably something
Early
in the order of
temperature
20
clues of the polar hexagon.
but still quite a bit smaller than, the limit is quite a bit smaller than what we were looking for, a 30-kilometer satellite. Because he did not find any satellite larger than 10 kilometers in either of the gaps in the Cassini division.
How many known moons does Saturn
Find
have?
ourselves at a point where we had hoped not to be. Included
Over 140.
4 satellites. 3 of them show up quite readily: Tethys, Dione, and Rhea. And this is the shadow of Tethys up here. But if you look very carefully, you'll see a little bright spot right here. That's Mimas, and its shadow is seen up here. This is
What is Saturn's largest moon?
false color because it gives us a little more contrast to the features that we're looking at. Colors that go into this are ultraviolet, violet, and green.
Titan.
And again, indicate the way Saturn might appear if our eyes were sensitive to the shorter wavelength part of the spectrum. Once again, we see this high-velocity jet, this looping feature indicative of that high-velocity jet blowing toward the east, about 150 meters per second. Down below is
Why is Titan unique in the solar
much
system?
weaker jet toward the west at about 15 meters per second, and then these anticyclonic features that are caught up in the shear.
It is the only moon with a dense atmosphere.
Moving along at about something like 30 meters per second in a easterly toward the east. Note that when we look at these objects into the UV, that this brownish spot tends to have a slightly brighter center, and these 2 features show up quite well.
What is Titan's
And that's in
atmosphere
contrast
primarily made of?
to the green image, black and white green image, that I'll show you in just a moment. Note the position of these
Nitrogen.
of these 2 features. This is about the same latitude as this one, and so they're moving along more rapidly than this feature, which is almost standing still in between this strong jet that's moving toward the east and the weaker one that's moving toward the west. So
What liquids pool on Titan's surface?
black and white image now shows this region with somewhat higher resolution. This picture was taken about 2 days later. This one, in fact, on the 21st of August.
Liquid methane and
now you can
ethane.
just barely see those 2 features that showed up so well in ultraviolet. But
the pictures Voyager 2 sent back this morning were part of a sequence of photos shot 10 hours apart. Scientists were hoping they would show motion on the planet. Such motion would help them measure wind velocities and help them understand more about various weather conditions on Saturn.
What is Saturn's second largest moon?
Photos of a region in the northern hemisphere which shows up as a great brown spot. Voyager 2 took photos of it Sunday night and again this morning.
Rear.
The two sets of photos showed a great deal of motion in the spot. They found that the spot is what is called an anticyclone, meaning a high-pressure region which moves in a clockwise direction. Imaging scientists Andy Ingersoll and Gary Hunt were, in their words, delighted with what they saw of the great brown spot, calling it their most important discovery of this morning.
Which of Saturn's moons is famous for active water geysers?
You've got the flow around it. There's also something occurring right at the very edge. Yeah. This is a
Enceladus.
image of this and ribbed. Notice also that we've got one of the points, which is almost a characteristic of anything that has a large flow. The internal part is generally sort of symmetric in its flow, but you always get the barrier, the points being set up at the edge.
You can just see, without even getting a time sequence.
Where do Enceladus's geysers erupt from?
More questions were raised about another phenomenon in the northern hemisphere region. This one, the ribbon-shaped configuration.
Tiger stripe fractures near its south pole.
Scientists are saying it is an eastward jet of wind blowing at about 300 miles an hour.
Now, there you are. There's a little spotty here, and there's the convection on the north side again.
Ingersoll and Hunt had wanted to find out whether the ribbon was causing the great spot or affecting it in some other way.
What lies beneath Enceladus's thick outer ice shell?
That question. Voyager scientists like Ingersoll and Hunt will spend the next several months poring over these pictures,
A global liquid water ocean.
of Saturn, becoming even more familiar with its various features. But right now, they are like excited campers getting their first glimpses of snapshots they took on their summer vacation. From the interactive room in Mission Control, Bill Griffith, NASA Newsnet.
In the press conference this morning, one unusual news...
Which of Saturn's moons heavily resembles the Death Star?
...put out, that having to do with the small moon Hyperion. The pictures available so far show that this is a very irregular object. That in itself is fairly significant. And the way it looked in the pictures we have so far, it didn't seem to have its axis lined up right with its spin directions. But to talk about all of that and what this all may be and how it all may be disentangled, we hope, we have Joe Vaverka, a member of the imaging team.
What is the name of the massive crater on Mars?
Is this an oddball object? First of all, it's awfully big to be so irregular. Isn't this a little unusual?
Certainly
Herschel.
It's an oddball object. I guess we don't know all the ways in which it's strange yet, but we're going to find out as we get a closer and closer look. I think it's true that the first views we got from Voyager 2 were rather surprising because, in fact, we were looking at the end which faces away from Saturn, and what we saw was...
Which of Saturn's moons has a dramatic two-toned appearance?
This is, I guess, the first picture we got. And the resolution here is something like 32 kilometers per line pair. And to the best of our estimates, the spin axis is in this direction.
Not lined up with the long axis.
And what we're probably looking at in this case is something that may have the shape of a chocolate bar. And you would normally expect that the long end of the chocolate bar would point at the planet. And at the flat end...
What unusual feature runs along the equator of Iapetus?
Yes, and
there's some change of aspect between the two.
Yes, we're essentially going around towards the trailing side.
A massive mountain ridge.
As I said, we're about maybe 40 degrees away from the anti-Saturn point.
One of the most interesting satellites of Saturn is Iapetus, the most distant large satellite from the planet. I'm here with Dave Morrison and Jeff Placia, who are Voyager imaging scientists. We're looking now at pictures of the dark and light sides of the satellite. And gentlemen, what do we know about why there is...
Which of Saturn's moons has a sponge-like appearance?
The light side is clearly water ice. We know that from ground-based observations. And we suspect that that is representative of the
Hyperion.
Of the whole object. But the simplest idea would then be that the dark material was somehow just a superficial thing laid down over the leading hemisphere, the hemisphere that faces forward as Iapetus goes around Saturn. But that's precisely what we're looking for. What can these pictures tell us about whether we have a superficial dark...
Why does the moon Hyperion tumble chaotically?
Produced externally by stuff falling in, or whether it's somehow related to the activity itself. And particularly, we want to look at
its irregular shape and gravitational interactions.
See how they relate to light and dark.
The dark and light sides of Iapetus have nothing to do with the angle of light from the sun. but rather the intrinsic reflective surface of Iapetus. Morrison describes the difference in reflectivity of the dark and light areas as that of bright snow versus asphalt.
Leading theory
Which two moons act as shepherd satellites for the F ring?
That the dark material came from elsewhere, namely from the outermost satellite of Saturn, Phoebe, and that it was chipped off of Phoebe
Prometheus and
fine
Pandora.
dust from impacts over billions of years, and this dust drifted inward, and Iapetus, on its leading side, as it went around the orbit, collected that dust. So it just painted the front of Iapetus dark, and the back stayed light.
Part of the light surface of Iapetus is splattered with craters.
Which moon is shaped like a flying saucer due to accumulated ring dust?
Might have filled up the craters. The light side also has curious streaks that scientists had not seen before.
Atlas.
Another new discovery in these pictures is a large crater with a dark floor, which may hold more clues to the ongoing geologic activity of Iapetus. The cameras of Voyager 2 have taken a series of photos of the satellite through different colored filters. These allow scientists to reconstruct a color picture of Iapetus and to get better information on the
What are Janus and
reflectivity of its
Epimetheus
surface.
known as?
But still, they want to know more.
We are looking for a single explanation for almost everything, and that's because this is the first chance to look at it. And
Co-orbital
probably
moons.
There is no single explanation, and there are different phenomena taking place. I'm focusing on what produces the dark stuff, and that may have nothing to do with what's producing some of the geological features that we're seeing.
Yeah, the thing we really need to constrain at are a lot of craters where we can see the floors if they're dark or if they're bright, and we just haven't been lucky.
What orbital dance do Janus and Epimetheus perform every 4 years?
In our lifetimes, probably.
Reporting from the interactive room at JPL, I'm Carol Ackright, NASA
They
News
swap
Net.
orbital paths.
And there's the outer edge of the A ring and the very narrow F ring that one can see very faintly.
One of its satellites in the picture.
And Dione. Now, Dione is one of the satellites, icy satellites we visited very closely with Voyager 1, and actually we will not be looking at it as closely with Voyager 2.
Which of Saturn's moons is located furthest out among the large moons?
For instance, Enceladus and Tethys. Now, Iapetus also we're seeing for the first time with
Iapetus.
resolution something on the order of 15 miles.
This is the one that has this curious marking. One side is many times brighter than the other. I heard that some material on the dark side is 10 times darker than that on the light side.
Is it roughly 10 to 1 brightness ratio? That's right. It's a remarkable object. This is Tethys. Tethys has a 500-mile-long canyon on it. We didn't image it very well on Voyager 1. With Voyager 2,
What is Saturn's third largest moon?
Now a little bit down at the bottom.
Now one can begin to see the canyon right at the edge of the image. That's right. And there is
Tethys.
That's what we're just beginning to see today, and discover that it doesn't look right at all.
It just doesn't look right at all. That's right.
Of course, right now we're still approaching closest approach. After we go by, we'll then see Saturn in the South Pole.
Yes, we'll be looking at the dark side of the rings, the side that's unilluminated, and we'll be looking at the south polar region of Saturn.
What massive trench stretches across 3/4 of Tethys?
Satellites now. Here is our 3 views of Hyperion.
Ithacosphasma.
All kinds of descriptions given for it, from a peanut to various other things. It is obviously very irregular. The scale is not the same in each of these images. It reflects the approach to Titan, this being taken.
Which
at a
small
distance
moon
of
shares
about
an orbit with
1.2 million,
Tethys?
0.7 million and 0.5 million, so it's growing in size as the spacecraft gets closer. But the best
Telescope.
description that I could give it right now is it sort of looks like a thick hamburger patty or whatever. And here you're looking into the edge of it. I wish I had a little model or something I could show you.
One important science objective is the photopolarimeter observation of the occultation of a star by the rings.
What kind of atmosphere
Light
does
from
Rhea
the
have?
Star, Delta Scorpii, is measured as it flashes through the rings in the shadow of Saturn. The 2¼
A very
hour
thin exosphere of
experiment
oxygen.
provides information on the number of ringlets, their densities, and widths.
Now that entire measurement lasts about 2.5 hours. And I think we're just now seeing the beginning of the sequence, but they have obviously found the star. They're starting to make the measurement.
And they're getting in the data they expected.
It's a fantastic experiment when you
Which dark, distant moon orbits Saturn in a retrograde direction?
from the inner edge to the outer edge of the ring system is tens of thousands of miles. It's comparable to the distance around the Earth.
Phoebe.
Yet we will measure detail there at the size of a city block.
And as you pointed out, we're already seeing thousands of rings, of small ring features. This map may show us a lot more even than thousands.
Yes.
The fact is, if the planetary program really has... I guess one way to look at today is the day of challenge, where we're going to be challenged by...
What geometric shape is the storm at Saturn's North Pole?
Everything we're seeing today, basically everything we're seeing today, will be new.
I'd like to start off with the first slide.
A hexagon.
Showing a filtered view, actually, a mosaic of several images, just showing a filtered view of the very high latitudes on Saturn. There's a notch out the North Polar limb here, but one can see the enormous amount of...
How wide is Saturn's polar hexagon?
Very high latitudes. Here we see some of these complex features, this brown spot that we've been looking at quite recently, now taking
about 30,000 kilometers.
Similar to a spiral galaxy, and we're seeing material actually flowing out and forming rather curious patterns. Here is that high velocity jet, showing somewhat of a Rossby-like structure, Rossby wave-like structure.
What is the polar hexagon storm actually?
Some cyclonic, that is the equivalent of low pressure areas in a system that's not all
a high-speed jet stream
from the Earth. This is the first view of Titan that we've released for the Voyager 2 encounter. It's not by any means our highest resolution image, and we'll perhaps release another at somewhat higher resolution. One can still see that it's a rather uninspiring orange.
What color does the hexagon turn during northern summer?
There is this north-south demarcation with a line which still is in there fairly
golden
close
brown
to the equator of Titan.
High-resolution photographs of the planet and satellites are assembled from mosaics of images covering separate areas of each target. From a distance of about 58,000 miles, Voyager 2's cameras compose a 4-image mosaic of Tethys.
Does Saturn experience auroras?
Even though we're still, last night 1 million kilometers away from Tethys, we did record a feature of rather curious
at both poles.
A very, very large crater on one face of Tethys, a face that was not seen by Voyager 1. The crater is huge. In fact, it is the largest crater so far seen in the Saturnian system. It's about 400 kilometers, that is something in the order of 300 miles in diameter.
What is unique about Saturn's magnetic axis?
We see a ring of mountains that surround the impact feature. The central peak.
It is almost perfectly aligned with its rotational axis.
Material up from the center after the impact, and then as that central peak slumps back down, it pushes up the mountain chain that, or the mountain ridge that surrounds the impact crater of the planet. Well, there's an enormous amount of detail that's beginning to show up, and we expected this.
What internal process helps generate Saturn's heat?
Giving us a good high-resolution view down on the illuminated ring system.
Gravitational compression and helium rain.
In the approach by Voyager 1, we had estimated that there were hundreds of rings, and by the time we got through, that estimate grew up to perhaps something like 1,000.
And why don't we take a look at the zoom movie of Saturn?
I think it's a good way of seeing how dramatically the weather patterns have changed. You can see, particularly in the northern hemisphere, these
what is helium rain?
Features bursting out. They're giant storm systems. Dark feature also on other clouds.
We can run it forwards and backwards.
If you stop it about there, Al, in fact, you can see
helium condensing and falling toward the core.
Very bright patches in the region between about 20 and 40 degrees, and these are in the northern hemisphere. A large amount of detail is showing up there, and even if you look right towards the pole, you can start to see that the banding continues right the way up towards the pole. So there's a lot of detail and a lot of change in the basic meteorology.
How fast can winds get on Saturn?
We can't see much in the southern hemisphere. A suggestion of spots is because we haven't got the optimum viewing. We'll see that better after encounter.
The data from the
Up to
Voyager
500
Saturn
meters per
encounters
second.
are still being analyzed by scientists. The rings were resolved into thousands of nearly concentric features, now thought to be shaped by the gravitational effects of the Saturn moons. Large bolts of lightning, as energetic as the total output of an Earth-based nuclear power plant, were detected in the Saturn B ring.
What is the Great White Spot?
Clouds in Saturn's atmosphere were clocked moving at speeds of 1,770 kilometers per hour.
A massive storm that appears roughly every 30 years.
Aboard Voyager. The pictures were converted to an electronic number code, and the numbers were transmitted to Earth by radio waves. Computers then used the numbers to reconstruct the images.
Which spacecraft orbited Saturn from 2004 to 2017?
During our next and
Cassini.
final program in the series, we will look at what we know and what we expect to learn about the three outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We will also talk briefly about comets, asteroids, and our hopes for the further exploration of space. Till next time, this is Larry Ross saying goodbye from NASA's Lewis Research Center.
What robotic lander successfully touched down on Titan in 2005? Huygens. Which space agency built the Huygens lander? The European Space Agency. What did Huygens discover on Titan's surface? Rounded ice pebbles, drainage channels, and cold mud.
I'm Larry Ross, Director of Space Programs at NASA's Lewis Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm your host for this 11th program in our 13-part series, Journey Through the Solar System.
How did the Cassini mission end in 2017?